Today we were turning some simple 2x4 offcuts into a beautiful decorative stack of books using several Iron Orchid Designs products. This project combines the Bookish Mould, the Alfred, Peat & Co. paint inlays, and some embellishments from the Cadre Mould to create a piece that is perfect for shelf styling and book lovers alike. It's always amazing to see how ordinary scraps can become something that looks like it came from a boutique or antique store. So let's jump right in and see how this project came together. To get started, a few leftover 2x4 pieces were gathered from previous projects. These scraps make the perfect base for creating a faux stack of books, and it's always satisfying to find new uses for materials that might otherwise be thrown away. The first step was applying a white base coat to all of the wood pieces. Since the finished piece was going to have a vintage feel, white provided a nice clean foundation for all the details that would come later. Perfection isn't really the goal here. A little bit of texture showing through only adds character and helps create that aged look we love in vintage decor. After all the sides are covered, the pieces were set aside to completely dry before moving on to the next step. So here's where things got a little interesting. Unfortunately, this part happened off camera, but it's a pretty straightforward process. Once the paint had dried, the pieces were arranged into a stack and glued together. Rather than making everything perfectly lined up, the books were intentionally staggered just a bit to give the stack a more natural and realistic appearance. Wood glue was used to secure everything together, creating one solid piece to work with. Even though this step wasn't captured, you can already start imagining where this project is headed. At this point, it's still just a stack of wood, but that's about to change. Now comes one of the most exciting parts of the project. The IOD Bookish Mold was used with air-dry clay to create all those beautiful raised details that really make these books look like books. An important tip when working with any kind of molds and air-dry clay, you want to always make sure that you prep your molds by adding a little bit of cornstarch, and this just basically helps the air-dry clay release from the mold when you're ready to take it out of there. The clay was pressed firmly into the mold to capture all of those intricate details, and once removed, the pieces were attached directly onto the wood. One thing that's great about air-dry clay is that it remains flexible enough while fresh to conform nicely to the surface. As those molded pieces were added, the transformation really started happening. Suddenly, these simple wood blocks began taking on the appearance of antique books. This is usually the moment where the vision starts coming together and you can really see the project come alive. Next, it was time to add some character to the covers using the Alfred, Peat & Co. paint inlays from Iron Orchid Design. These designs are absolutely perfect for creating the appearance of old, well-loved books. They have such a beautiful vintage quality to them. Paint was applied to the surface before laying the inlay sheets down and allowing them to dry thoroughly. And if you've ever worked with the paint inlays before, you know that this next part is always exciting. Peeling away the backing reveals those gorgeous transferred images, and each one has its own unique, naturally aged appearance. That's one of the things that makes paint inlays so special. No two projects ever come out exactly alike, and those little imperfections are what give them so much charm. At this stage, the stack really started looking like a collection of vintage books. Here you can see that George is using the light brown sugar glaze by Paint Couture. This is adding a little extra age to the entire piece. To finish everything off, some embellishments were created using the IOD Cadre Mould. Air dry clay was used again to form decorative accents that would add even more depth and elegance to the piece. Once those molds were removed, they were placed strategically around the stack to create extra layers and visual interest. These details may be small, but they make a huge impact. They help elevate the entire project and give it that custom high-end look. It's amazing just how a few finishing touches can transform a simple DIY into something that feels truly special. And just like that, those scrap 2x4s have been transformed into a beautiful decorative stack of books. Projects like this are a great reminder that you don't need expensive materials to create something unique and full of character. If you've enjoyed today's project, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let us know in the comments where you would display this piece in your home. And if you'd like to recreate this project yourself, you'll find links to all of the Iron Orchid Design products used in this project down below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.